Hello everyone and welcome to this video. My name's Hayden. In the last few years, about 4.5 years, I've been selling on Amazon. I've done over 1.4, 1.5 million, something like that. I currently do online arbitrage. I do unique bundles as my main strategy. I do it in the UK and the US marketplace, and I also do a little bit of private label. In this video, I'm going to talk about what's better, private label or unique bundles. Let's dive into it. So I think there's a couple of really important things to note when thinking about unique bundles or private label, and that's one, the amount of money it's going to cost you to invest, and two, the amount of time it's going to take you to launch either one, either strategy, either products, and what your long-term goal is. So let's go into the fundamentals and the main differences between them. So if we start with private label, as like a generic standard rule, most people are going to be importing these products from overseas, and there's long lead times on these products. Not only are you importing them from overseas, there's usually a minimum order quantity for these private label products, okay? And this could be 3,000 minimum, 5,000 minimum. On top of that, you've then got to look at the other costs, and some of the other costs are things like photography. Some of the other costs are things like listing creation that has to be a really high standard. Some of the other costs are things like paying people to inspect the products before they're sent to Amazon, or flying over to the factories to check your manufacturers before you go ahead with your purchases. Now, it's important to note that not all private label has to be done from overseas. I do private label myself, and all of our products are manufactured ourselves from our supplier here in the UK. But for most scenarios, you're going to be on Alibaba, AliExpress to test things out, and it's all going to be going from China or Turkey or some of these manufacturing companies in the Far East, and that's okay. So there's a lot of initial upfront costs, right? And that's one of like the major negatives of private labels, especially for beginners, because at the start, most people, which is understandable, don't really understand Amazon. And some people will get to a stage where they do 3 months worth of research, 6 months worth of research, and they think they understand Amazon. They go and spend £5,000, including all costs, including the cost of goods and what I just mentioned, like getting someone to inspect your products. And then they get their product, they sell it into Amazon, 300-400 units, and it just doesn't sell to the level that they need it to, or they're spending a fortune on PPC, and there's a few things that they've overlooked. That's one of the major and it's a real risk when it comes to doing private label. Now, there's ways that you can counteract this, obviously. Getting a mentor, and by the way, I don't do any private label mentoring, so I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just saying getting the right mentor, or being in the right sort of group, for example, that is not some bullshit academy that costs thousands of pounds, just where the only person that wins is the person selling it. A real group that's got real people in there, real coaches, real mentors that are actually in the game, that might help you limit the risk. But there's always going to be risk. Okay, so that's like a big downfall when it comes to private label. When we look at the upside compared to unique bundles, and I'm going to go into both, by the way, but we're starting with private label. When we look at the upside of private label, it's got much bigger long-term potential in terms of an exit. Okay, there's like this phrase that goes around, sort of like, or a couple of wordings that say like, oh, it's a proper brand, like people that have got unique bundles might not have a proper brand, and who knows what a proper brand is. I know unique bundle brands, hamper brands that have sold for many, many millions. So you can absolutely have a real brand in the unique bundles, but we'll talk about that in a minute. When it comes to the private label, it's kind of like you have to, that if you get it right, someone's going to want to buy it. Okay, most times. I've got a good friend of mine called Ben Leonard. Go and have a look at the interview we did with him recently. He sold his company, his brand called Beast Gear, a few years ago for multiple millions, multiple seven figures. And he wasn't even selling that much. I think he was selling about 6 million a year, and he managed to exit for a few million net, in his bank account. So it can be really good. So I think one of the major upsides is that the multiples in which you can sell a private label business is a lot more. Okay, in a reselling business, I've spoken to Ben Leonard about this, and he sells brands as well, by the way. you're probably looking at, I don't know, you might be looking at a 2-3 times multiple of the profit, maybe, when you're selling it. Whereas if you're looking at a private label, a solid brand that you've really, got the brand's vision intact, and you've got it on its own website, you've got it in multiple third-party sites as well, maybe it's international, you could be looking like a 10x exit, 10 times your profit, for example. So there's a big difference there, and then there's protection as well. Okay, when you invest the time, it takes a lot of time, but if you invest the time into a private label brand, without a shadow of a doubt, it's probably, if you're going to do this for a long term and you want to do it and you want to exit and you want something that's really like yours, private label is probably the route for you. I'm not going to lie to you, but it takes a lot more effort. Let's move over to the unique bundle side of things over here. So unique bundles, here's like the downsides of unique bundles. A lot of people talk about the upsides. I thought it was only upside when I started, but let's talk about the downsides. Now, the downsides with unique bundles is that you're bundling together other people's products. Now, there's obviously some pros to that. Like if one of your suppliers is biscuits, for example, one of your suppliers goes out of stock or goes bankrupt, then you can substitute them for someone else. So it's actually a bit of a pro as well. But one of the major downsides has also got to be the fact that you're selling other people's products. It's essentially reselling on steroids. Okay, you can put it under your own brand. You can get brand gated if you really go for it. I'm trying to get mine brand gated at the moment. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but we can do it. You can get transparency codes so that people can't jump on your listings. You can have that security up to a certain extent. However, at the end of the day, it's bundling together other people's products. And the reason that's not as powerful as private label is because you haven't got the same intellectual property rights. You just haven't, okay? Someone else can go ahead and do the exact same box with the exact same sleeve, the exact same stickers, the exact same printed box with the exact same items in it. They could drop it by £2, and then all of a sudden we're back to like this arbitrage wholesale issue where it's just constant price tanking. And that's what happens. If you have a good product, others will see it. I've got products where I've launched them and I was like literally the first or the second person to ever sell these types of products. And what's happened is we're 2.5 years in now to doing bundles. Maybe you're coming up to 3 years, and there's probably about 12 to 15 competitors that have launched almost identical products to me in the same keywords, and there's nothing I can do about it. And look, fair game to them as well, because they're just doing exactly what I would do as well, which is compete. It's called competition. Now there's some obviously pros to that, because it means that you have to make sure that you're on it and you're above it, and you're one of the best in the game by always launching new products. But it's a real issue. You haven't got the same IP. It's not going to have the same value when you come to exit. You could absolutely sell a unique bundle brand, but when it comes to exit, it's going to be a bit more tricky. And people can copy you. It's as simple as that. And another thing people don't talk about is when you're launching unique bundles as opposed to doing online arbitrage, although I think it's faster than private label absolutely to get your products to market, it's still not really fast. There's some bundles that you'll launch that will just sell like one every couple of days or one a week, so it might take you a really long time, like it has with me, to build up that catalog where you've got a really good amount of consistent sales and consistent profit from them bundles. That's why I always advise the people that I mentor one-to-one to actually mix it with arbitrage at the same time, so that you keep that momentum going, you keep that profit going at the same time, so that you're not losing your confidence, feeling like it's taken a really long time to get this business going. If we look at the major pros to unique bundles as well, now let's look at the major pros to the unique bundles. So with the unique bundle side of things, there's some amazing benefits that you can have by purely and simply launching as many bundles as possible. And the difference between the unique bundles and private label launch process is that you can test a unique bundle for as cheap as like £30 or £40. I've got bundles that have just got one standard generic product on it and a box, and I can test 24 bundles of them going in one box. Costs me £30, £40. Maximum I've probably spent on a test is probably £250. And do you know what? You can get the turnaround time on that can be like 1.5 to 2 weeks if you're ordering all your stock from the UK, which is what most people do, and I would probably advise you to do. So you've got quicker turnaround times. You can launch as many products as you want. I know someone that launches 200 a week of bundles, 200 a week, so that all of a sudden if you're looking at like a 3-month period, if you're to start private label, ignoring all of that initial research phase and test phase and, you know, the risk that it entails, with unique bundles, you could have launched, even if you were doing it inversely and not all going all in, you could launch at least 5 bundles in that 3 months, at least. More like 20, 30, 100 if you really went for it, you know. But realistically, we're probably talking like maybe you could do 5, you know. Whereas with private label, you're probably only going to be testing 1 in that time, and there's no guarantee that will work. And there's no guarantee unique bundles will work, but you can test like 12. And you can test 30, 40, 50 quid's worth or 100 quid's worth of bundles rather than risking thousands of pounds at a time. And there's no... If I was to do a summary here by what's best with unique bundles or private label, I don't think it's about what's best. You can make the same money in both. You can make so much money with unique bundles, so much money with private label. I think in summary, it's what your long-term goals and why not do both. You could absolutely do both. Why not start with unique bundles, understand the game, and then gradually transition into private label if it's a brand that you really want to exit one day. Guys, I hope that video's helped. Unique bundle training, I don't offer any courses, don't sell any courses, anything like that. I do a little bit of one-to-one consulting. There's a link below on my calendar if you want to book in a call to see if you're the right fit for me, because I'll only take people that are really serious. As I say, I haven't got any courses, coaching, anything like that in terms of like an academy or whatever, but I can also refer you to The Hive, which is where I learned everything I know about unique bundles, and there's a 50% off coupon code there as well if you type in Hayden in capitals. I'll link that below in the comments, them two guys, if you want to learn more about bundles. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like and share it with anyone that would like to see it. I'll see you soon.